If you need money set aside for a specific bill or activity, what you might need is a sinking fund. But what if you're starting out that sinking fund with absolutely zero money? Today, we are going to give you 3 hacks, all of which we have used to start a sinking fund successfully from zero. Hey, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
From Under the Median. Hey, on this channel, we talk all about frugal living and living with a spirit of joy and abundance on a budget. So if that's your thing and you are wanting to learn more about that, then you want to make sure that you are a subscriber. And when you do, hit the notification bell. So sinking funds. We've actually talked about sinking funds a little bit off and on in some of the programs, but we've never actually dedicated an entire program to sinking funds. So this program actually was in response to a viewer request. So a couple of programs ago, we said, hey, we really want this to be all about you and not so much about us. What do you want to know from us? And a viewer wrote in and said, I know you've talked a little bit about sinking funds, but I really need some practical advice as to how to even get one going in the first place. So we are going to answer that question on the program today. All right, sinking funds. Larry, what in the world are we talking about?
Well, let's talk about what a sinking fund isn't first.
Okay,
so a sinking fund is not your emergency fund.
No.
An emergency fund is a fund that you set up for unknown expenses.
Right.
Okay, it also is not your savings account. Your savings account should be used for accruing wealth. So that isn't what a sinking fund is. So what a sinking fund is, it's a fund set up for money that you know for sure you're going to use.
Okay, so you're going to need this money. Now, during this program, we're actually going to cover 2 different types of sinking funds. And this is kind of the difficulty that we have had with when people talk about sinking funds, because I think you really need to think about sinking funds as doing 2 different types of things. So we have 2 different categories of sinking funds in our budget. Then we're actually going to show you on paper all 16 of our sinking funds. And then finally, I'm going to give you those 3 hacks that will help you to start and fully fund that sinking fund, even if you're starting from zero. All right, so now we know kind of what a sinking fund is. Money set aside for expenses we know are coming up. So when we talk about sinking funds, though, we talk about 2 different kinds, and most people don't do that. One kind of sinking fund is for something you know for sure is coming up. So when we were first married, we called these banked expenses.
I was going to bring that up.
Yes.
The term sinking funds can kind of have a mysterious sound to it. It's not sinking like something drowning. Okay, it's a fund that means that you're going to tap into it, and therefore it goes down in value as you use it. You also have to build it up as you're using it. So it's actually doing both.
Right. So our sinking funds are divided into spending categories that we know for sure it's going to come due. Our house taxes.
Like taxes. Yeah, yes. I was going to say taxes.
Yes. 2 things for sure in life, right? Death and taxes. Taxes. So we know for sure our taxes are going to be due in May.
In our case. Yeah.
And we know for certain about what they're going to be. We never know like that bottom line until right when it arrives in the mail. But we got a pretty doggone good idea as to what we should expect our home taxes to be. So we take that whole amount, we divide it by 12, and we save that amount every single month. And then in May, it's gone. The whole sinking fund has sank. It is gone in one fell swoop in May when we pay our taxes. So in June, what do?
In June, we start saving again.
That's right.
We've divided the amount by 12, so we take that 1/12 amount and we put that in June toward the next time that we're going to need that money the following year.
Now we're going to show you all of our sinking funds. So we're going to show you exactly what our single-use sinking funds look like. Now, if you look there, you will see that we have car replacement. We start saving for a car the minute that we purchase a car. immediately the next month we start saving to replace that car, and usually we hope that it will last for 10 years.
And you know, the reality is we never really stop saving for a car.
Right.
And even if we don't use it all, which usually isn't the case, we're pretty good about using it all.
We use it all.
We still keep that, we just keep that fund going all the time.
That's right. So then the next one there, what did we mention? House taxes, life insurance, home insurance, car insurance, all of your insurances, we pay them once a year. And the reason we recommend that is because if you pay them monthly or even quarterly or sometimes semi-annually, you're still paying a little bit of an extra fee in order for the privilege of paying it less than once a year.
And you know, I think it's just nice to not have to make all those payments. It's just easier to make one lump sum payment and then it's done for 365 days.
Yeah, we really like one and done.
Right.
All right. And then also retirement, we fund our retirement accounts, both of our Roth IRAs every single month, and vacation.
Now the retirement accounts are a little different. Don't we have those set up so they're actually automatically withdrawing?
Yeah.
This is a special fund that we set up with our advisor. Our financial advisor.
But it's still a sinking fund.
Yeah.
Every single month they withdraw it automatically from our account and they put it into the investment account for us. So it's done automatically. We don't have to do it. Anytime that you can automate something so that it happens automatically, it's generally a really, really good thing.
It is.
And so, and y'all know that you guys, you are responsible for our new vacation, category. We've always had a vacation category, but now it's going to have more in it because you encouraged us to take a vacation, which we did this year. And yes, we are going to do a video on it. I know you've been waiting 4 weeks since we got back for us to do one, but Larry's got all the pictures pulled together and he's getting some footage that our older sons took because they have actually better cameras than we do. And we're going to show you our vacation and talk about how we budgeted for that. But Larry, we enjoyed it so much that we decided that really we're going to do this every year.
We found it to be very important to continue to put that into our budget every year, to do a major vacation, not little small ones like we were doing.
Okay, so thank you to all of you that encouraged us to reconsider our travel ban. So it was a good thing you suggested.
It was really good.
All right, now let's talk about our second kind of sinking fund. The second kind of sinking fund that we have in our budget is the kind that you just don't know exactly when these expenses are going to occur or how many are going to occur at once or how many are going to occur throughout the year. So Larry, give us some examples of sinking funds that they're not recurrent sinking funds.
Well, clothing kind of comes into that category.
Absolutely.
We can't always plan when we're going to rip through those pair of pants when we bend down. or wear out a shirt, or the socks now have holes in them so much that now they're showing above the shoe line or something like that. But we can't always predict when clothes are going to need to be replaced. So that would be one category.
That's right. Or when you're going to score the most amazing clearance deal you have ever seen in your life, all right? You cannot predict that.
No.
So instead, what we do is we start out with a fully funded clothing category at the first of the year and we spend it down. And do not fear, once again, I'm going to remind you in just a few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how we did that, how we got one full year ahead on our emergency funds. All right, so other examples of things that they may need to think of in terms of this isn't going to happen all the time.
Well, home furnishings is a category that can change, flex around, and it's hard to know just how much money you're going to need in that account, but we just set a certain amount, and then we have to stay within that limit.
So we set $480 a year aside, and I am really trying desperately not to spend it all because what do I want?
A new couch.
Yes, I do.
2 new couches, really.
So hopefully, I found a lamp or something I wanted, but it hasn't been too much this year. So I'm trying really hard not to touch it so I can roll it over to the next year. All right, gifts. Another great example. You know when birthdays are going to happen. I know when his birthday is.
Do you really?
Yes, it's July 9th, you guys. I know, it's coming right up. And yes, I already have a gift for you.
Oh,
okay.
How nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And it came out of the gift budget.
All right.
I spent down some of that gift category. So we know that. But some of the things we don't know like necessarily graduation get-togethers we're going to be invited to. We don't know how many weddings we're going to be invited to, how many bridal showers, baby showers. You don't know those things. So we sort of average what we've spent on those over the past couple of years, and that's what we try to keep in that sinking fund. Christmas, another great example.
I got to say the gift fund is the hardest one to stay on top of for us.
It is.
It tends to run away a little bit. So we always have to kind of adjust that one.
I will say, like, the older our kids get, the more hard it is for me to, it was easier for me to not spend as much money on them when they were younger. But now that they're older and they have, like,
greater needs,
yeah. Like, they have their own home and things like that. There are things they need that I'm willing to spend a little more money on them. So, books. I know you're going to look at that and think, why does she have a book category? Well,
we like books.
Because we really like books.
Yeah.
And the truth is, so each of our children is required before they graduate from high school to take over our family budget for 6 months. That's part of, we homeschool. We have for 21 years now. And so that's part of my requirement. You want to graduate, you need to handle real money, a real budget for 6 months. And when our second son took over our budget when he was like 16 years old, he said, Mom, you need a book category in your budget. Because he's like, seriously? You're shoving book money in all kinds of weird places, Mom. I think this is not a good idea. There's nothing like your kid telling you that, pointing out something that actually is true, that it wasn't a good idea. So we actually have a book category now so we can spend and not feel guilty.
And one of the other sons was responsible for her getting the budget computerized.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I was doing it on pen and paper, had been for 20 years, and he's like, He wound up going into IT, so he's our IT specialist guy, and he's like, I'm going to computerize this for you.
Go figure.
Yeah, so I actually loved it. All right, so those you can see there on the paper, those are all of our sinking funds that we spend down every single month. And you'll see there, I'm also showing you exactly what we spend out of those sinking funds in January through June. So I'm laying it out so you can see exactly what the funds are and exactly how we have or have not spent them down for the first 6 months of this year. Those are the two kinds of sinking funds, and those are all 16 of our sinking fund categories. Now, the question of the day. That's my drum roll. How do you fund this if you're starting out from zero? What do? I actually have 3 different hacks. They all work. We have used every single one of these from time to time in the last 20 years to fund a sinking fund category. So, number 1 is what I call the roll it over method. Hey, I wanted to show you a real practical application of what my roll it over method looks like as far as funding a sinking fund. Now, this sinking fund is for clothing, and we are assuming you are starting from zero. You have no money set aside for your clothing budget. So in 2021, let's just say you wanted $600 in that sinking fund, but you have how much right now? You have zero. So you're going to take $600, divide it by 12, and you come up with $50 a month. That's how much you need to set aside in your monthly budget to fund this sinking fund. So as we go through the year, here's our example. In January, you fund it with your $50, so you have $50 in your clothing budget. But you don't spend it because, well, you don't find anything on sale that you like. So we get to February, you put another $50 with it. Bingo, bango, bongo, now you have $100. We get to March, you give it another $50, and you have $150 in that clothing sinking fund. Now, you find that blazer, that really cute one that you've been wanting, it went on clearance, so you bought it for $75. So you're going to subtract $75, leaving you with $75 that you're going to do what? You're going to roll it over to the next month, okay? So this is accumulating, and we're just rolling it over. Now, as we get to April, we have 125, May, 175, June, 225, and finally in July, $275. So you get the idea. Now, we are making the assumption you are actually going to buy some clothing somewhere in 2021. When you get to the end of the year, we're assuming on December 31st, you have $200 left over. And once again, what do we call this method? We call it roll it over. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take that $200, roll it over to 2022. 2. In 2022, we still have to be fully clothed, right? So we want $600 in that sinking fund. But look, we're starting out with $200, meaning that in January, the very first month, when we add that $50, we have $250. And by February, we have $300 in that same sinking fund that in February of 2021 only had $100 in it. Do you see the power of taking those odds and ends that are left over in your sinking funds at the end of the year and just rolling them over to the following year? That gets you ahead of where you would have been when you were starting the following year. And you will notice in February, once again, look, $300. That is 50% of what we want to have saved in that whole sinking fund, which is $600. All we have to do is repeat this process for 2 or 3 years in a row. By the time we start the 4th year, we should be able to start the 4th year with a fully funded $600 clothing sinking fund allowance, and that's $50 a month that we're going to continue to save that year while we're spending down that $600 we already have saved. That sinking fund money, that $50 a month, is going to go right into the bank. So the following year, once again, you start out the year with 100% fully funded in your sinking fund.
So the second hack is the extra money method. And how does that work?
Okay, the extra money method. We used this last year. We just used it actually in January of this year. We used the extra money method. So here's what we do. At the end of the year, we balance our budget and we see how much money we spent, how much money we saved. And if there is money left over, that, we didn't spend all the money in food, or we didn't spend all the money in gifts or in Christmas. If there's categories that you didn't spend all the money in, but you had it budgeted for to be spent, then it's left over. And we had a little over $4,000 at the end of last year. That was the good thing about staying home all year, I'm telling you. And it didn't have a name on it. It didn't have a purpose, but we needed to replace our electric car. And we had this deficit between what we already had saved to replace it and what the car was going to cost. And I said, let's roll it over. Let's take all that extra money and we're going to put it in one sinking fund. So that's what we did. And that's how we had enough money by March to actually replace the car. But you can use that exact same method. Just figure out what money do you have left over at the end of the year that literally is not accounted for. Make sure it's money that isn't supposed to go to some other cause, right? And if it's really leftover money, you can take that money and you can decide exactly how you're going to disseminate it into your sinking funds. You can fund specific funds all the way, or just sort of divide it up equally among all your funds, and you immediately have a head start on funding those sinking funds for the next 12 months.
And I think the total idea that we can get from this whole thing is that sinking funds help you to plan what you're going to do with your money. And even what we just said here in this number 2 example of a hack, you're still using money, you're planning, and you're putting it to a purpose. So you're not going to be spending money uselessly, needlessly, or aimlessly. It's got a purpose, it's got a plan to it.
You should never see leftover money as one great big green glorious pile of cash that you can spend however you want to. And that is one of the huge mistakes that we made as a couple when we first started budgeting, was we just saw our savings as, well, this is just meant to be spent. And so we spent it. Yeah. All right, so the third way, the third sinking fund hack is...
well, the third one would be sell item method.
This is Larry's favorite way to fund any goal. The sell items method. Larry, tell them what that means.
Well, it means you're going to have some extra money that's not in your budget, it's not accounted for, that you're going to generate from things that you have in your house that you're not using. And you're going to be able to throw that into your next year's budget or some sinking funds that need a little help. This is going to be something that's just going to add a little more value to your overall budget.
All right, we want to know, how do you fund your sinking funds? Was this super helpful for you to hear these 3 hacks as to how you can fund a sinking fund even if you're starting from zero? And do you have some sinking funds that we don't have? We would love to know all about your sinking fund plans, and we'd love to have you tell us in the comments section of the video. Leave it a thumbs up if you found it helpful, guys. And if you're not a subscriber to Under the Median, well, go ahead, subscribe, and join the Under the Median family, because we are friendly folks here, and we would love to have you. We'll see you next week.
So, for the background this week, I've picked our 1939 Sunbeam toaster. This was an Art Deco piece that became very popular in a 1960s commercial for Pop-Tarts.